So the first order of business, let's talk parts of speech. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start another note for us. Actually, no, we're not going to do that. Let's go back. We're just going to add a page because there is a way to do that. Yay. Okay. So parts of speech. Come on. All right. Ultimately, what I'm looking for you to be able to recognize are what's written on the board just by chance. Okay. So what I'm looking for, there are two parts to this. Turn off the light. Yes, you can. Okay. What is a person, place, thing, or idea? Zach. Noun. Okay. So noun, person, place, thing, or idea. What is a word that indicates some type of action or sense of being? Verb. Okay, so we've got noun, we've got verb. What is a type of word that describes nouns? Adjectives. Good. What are words that describe verbs? Adverbs. Good. Okay. What are phrases that indicate sometimes location? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think, and what are words that link either words or clauses or phrases? Conjunction. Okay, so those are the parts of speech. You should probably know what each of those things are, but you guys are pretty proficient in English. I think that should be all right. Robert. Now that's the other part of this. Let's talk about it. Okay. This kind of, it's sort of like parts of speech, but it's more like marking up. It's kind of a separate process. Okay. Now, we know a little bit more now. If I see a subject, how am I going to mark that up? Okay, so I've heard two things. All right, so we know that subjects are in the nominative case. Okay, which means direct objects are what case? Good, the accusative case. All right, and the way that you can remember that, if you're having trouble knowing the difference, you guys have seen this word. You don't have to write it, but written on everything I've given you. What is that? Name. So if you want to think of it this way, the subject is essentially like naming the sentence, like who is doing the action, who is doing whatever, right? It's naming who is this sentence about. Okay. Whereas the accusative case, right? What does that look like an English word to you? Accusation, or to accuse, right? You wouldn't accuse yourself, would you? Well, I guess it depends on the situation. But typically you wouldn't accuse yourself. You usually accuse somebody else, right? So that someone else is receiving the action of that verb. Okay, so it's not the subject, it's the one receiving the action. Okay. Mm-hmm. There are what? She gave that turkey. She gave me that turkey. Okay. She gave me that turkey. So in that example, are you just confused as to who's like the subject and the direct object? Because that's a couple different things. She gave. No. Not yet. There are, but we haven't learned it yet. Yes, technically, the the dative case is used for indirect objects. The dative case. So it's another case, right? So remember, case, let's, I guess, talk about that then. Case, you're close. Noun function, right? So we should probably write that down. Case is noun function, right? So what is it doing in the sentence? Okay, but nouns belong to families. What do we call those? Good, okay. Right, noun family equals declension. Okay, so it's a little tricky. We're kind of working with a lot of different things here at different layers. Right, Dora? Okay, so subjects, direct objects. What else am I going to want you to be able to mark up? Okay, verbs. All right, now as of right now, what do those typically end in? T if it's singular, or NT if it's plural. Okay. Lots of them. It depends. It depends. The irregular ones actually, the third person is pretty regular, right? So that's he, she, or it, or they. That's pretty regular, even with the irregular verbs. Okay. I'm also going to want you to be able to identify an infinitive. All right. Now we know there are 4 potential endings that'll help us recognize an infinitive. Do we remember what they are? So Ari is involved in each of them. So what's... Correct. Okay, so if you see a verb ending with one of these 4 things, it's an infinitive. Okay, and how do we translate those? To blank, whatever it is, right? And think of it this way, right? Infinitive, not end, right? Finish line, like that's the end, that's the limit, right? So in fin, like no end. It's outside of time. There's no like time attached to an infinitive. Okay. I also want you to recognize prepositional phrases. I can spell, I promise. Oh my. Okay, and what is the prepositional phrase comprising of? What are the 2 parts to it? Zach? The preposition and the object of the preposition. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm just going to write OP because does that make sense to y'all? Okay, preposition and OP. And lastly, you don't understand a preposition? Okay, that just means object of the preposition. So for example, prepositional phrases are super easy to recognize in Latin, more so than in English. Just let me start with that. If you know what words to look for. So for example, ad, a, in, ex, sub, per, trans, circa, circum. Okay, all of those are examples of prepositions. They each mean some type of direction. Okay, now when you see those, you know to be on the lookout for the object of the preposition. And what's nice about Latin is that usually the object of the preposition follows directly behind the preposition. That's a unit, and they don't split it up almost ever unless the author is trying to grab your attention. But that usually only happens in poetry. Okay, so for example, In this sentence, Flavia ad terram videt. Okay, what's my verb here, everybody? Videt. Okay, my subject is singular and nominative. Who's that? Flavia. Now we see this word here, ad. Okay, that's a preposition. And most likely, terram is the object of the preposition. Okay, if you were to check it out, it would in fact be that. This is your unit. This is your prepositional phrase. Okay, so Flavia looks toward the earth. Okay. Jade, does that make sense? Okay, so honestly, it's just a straight up memorization game. If you memorize the prepositions, they're super easy to recognize. And when you're looking through Latin sentences, it's helpful because then you can just mark them up and you don't have to deal with them for the time being, right? Then you just need to figure out like what's my subject, my verb, and my direct object. Okay, prepositional phrases are super easy to deal with. Okay, right, Timjin? I was just making sure you were still breathing and alive and awake. Hi. Okay. Lastly, impersonals. We've only seen one. Okay. Yep, and that's necessa est. All right, and what that translates to is it is necessary. Okay. Now, it is necessary. What does that require? Like, can I just say it is necessary? I feel like there should be more. What's going to follow necessa est usually? To something, to blank, right? What do we call that? It's an infinitive. What kind is it? Complementary, because it completes the meaning. So impersonals, when you see necessa est, be on the lookout for an infinitive. Okay, complementary infinitives usually follow impersonals. All right. So far, okay? Okay. I'm going to scroll back. May I? All right. So we talked about those. We actually talked about subjects and direct objects. Let's see, what else did we talk about? We talked about the infinitive. We kind of mentioned cases and declensions, but I would want to go back to that. Let's talk about linking verbs and action verbs real quick. That's super, super simple. Let's add another page. Okay, now, the only forms of the linking verbs that you've seen so far is est and sunt. Okay. A word for what? So technically that's included in the verb. So if I wanted to say I am a teacher, I would say sum. Sum on its own means I am. The subject and the verb are included in the verb itself. So I would say sum. Yeah, it comes from sum esse fui futurus. There technically is. So even though it's not necessary, you would say ego. You could say ego. And the author will often do that only if he's trying to emphasize that it is indeed he himself who blah, 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 blah. Okay, ego is a pronoun, by the way. But I'm not going to test you on that. Okay, so est and sunt are linking verbs. Est ends in a T, so is that singular or plural, everyone? Good. And sunt ends in an NT, so is it singular or plural, everyone? Good. Okay, now it's just linking, meaning it's a verb of being. Right, so for example, Cornelia est puella, right? How would I translate that? How would I translate that? Let's see, who can I call upon? Arwen. Mm-hmm. Cornelia is a girl. How would I translate this? Whoops, not the college. Cornelii sunt. How would I translate this? Cornelii sunt familia. Yeah, the Cornelii are a family. All right. Can I just have a sentence like this? Est servus? Yeah. I could translate this in a couple different ways, actually. What's one way? What's one way? Alice, what do you think? He is a slave, yeah. So even though there's no technically subject, it's already in the verb, so you just assume that it's he. Okay, what's another way? Right, because we have the word servus here, and we know that it has to be masculine, right? So we would say he. Yeah, so you could say like she is. Serwa is a word, yeah. It's another word for female slave. They're going to teach you this word, ankila, if you haven't seen it already. That's a word for female slave, but so is serwa. I think just aspect, like, I feel like serwa is more of like a brunt way of describing a slave, whereas an ankila is a little bit more like specialized. I think that's the difference, but I'd have to look. That's my best bet. Yeah. What's up? There is no ankylus though. Good question. Very good question. At least as far as I know. You all right, bud?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm recording this so you can always go back and just watch what you missed. Okie dokie. Okay. All right, so est servus, he is a slave. Now, what's another way I could translate this? Not slave he is. Technically, if a sentence starts like this, you could say, there is a slave. You could do that too. There's no real subject, and sometimes like whenever, like if you wanted to say like there is a slave who, there's no word for there really. It's kind of just like assumed. Yeah, it's kind of just like assumed. So you would see it. Either way would be fine. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on linking verbs? Do we kind of understand how they work?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. What's up?
Where do I find the
It's on, so if you go onto the portal, go into the topics page. I'm sorry. Thank you. Latin resources or essential resources. Go into the daily schedule. Okay, and you scroll down. I usually like type out what we do that day. I'll link it, right? So I'll write like grammar review, test review, or whatever, and you just click that, and it'll redirect you to YouTube. Okay, you didn't miss too much. Like my Latin page? Like my Latin YouTube page? Okay, just making sure that that's what you meant. I wanted to be sure. Cool. I'm doing really well. I'm verified. Okay, no, just kidding. All right. So that's linking. Now, action verbs indicate what? Right, so literally any other verb that's not est or sunt is going to be an action verb. Okay? This is all we did. We talked about parts of speech. We talked about case and noun function. And then we just talked basically about marking up kind of like what each thing is. Okay, that's all. But if you go through and watch the video later, you can see what you
Can
missed.
I ask one very quick question
Mm-hmm.
about impersonals?
Yes.
Could you very briefly explain those?
Okay, the only one that you've seen so far is necesse est. Yeah, it is necessary, and usually it's going to be accompanied by a complementary infinitive. It is necessary to do something, to blank. Okay, so when you see necesse est, look for an infinitive, right? And just as a quick review, infinitives are easily recognizable. They end in either are, ere, or ire. Cool beans? Okay. And it's just called an impersonal because like when I say it is necessary, there's no like real subject, right? So like if I were to say it is custom to, or it is customary to, blah 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 blah, or it is proper, it is forbidden, it is delighting, things like that, right? Because it's some nebulous it that's the subject, right, Madeline? Sleepy, sleepy. Ooh. Okay. So we did those. Any questions on linking versus action? Are we like pretty cool with that? Okay. Transitive versus intransitive. A couple of you asked me about that the other day. I'd like to talk about it real quick. All right, if you had Mrs. Brum Brum, then Mrs. Brumblebee. Yes. Okay. So transitive versus intransitive. Now, based on what you know about our prefixes and all that fun stuff, okay, we just talked about this. Trans, that's a preposition in Latin. What does it mean? Not to take on. It's across. Okay, so trans means across. And you can remember that because the transcontinental railroad, where does it go? It goes across the continent. If you're making a transatlantic crossing, you're sailing across the Atlantic. Okay, so trans means across. Now, in, what does that do to a word? Like negates it. Yeah. It means essentially not. Okay, so a transitive verb is one that does, yeah, takes a do. Okay, whereas an intransitive, no do. Okay, it can't take on a do. All right, and if you want to remember it, right, the action, transitive, the action goes across from a subject to something else. Whereas intransitive, the action does not go across to something else. All right, does that make sense? Yeah. Right, Timjin? Hello. Okay. Any questions on transitive versus intransitive? No. Okay.
Just to ask you,
Okay. Wait. Say your thing.
with like transitive or intransitive verbs, it's like ones that are three runs. So like the cat runs instead of like the girl and like
Right.
the cat runs up the tree. The cat, yeah, that one would be it. I saw the cat running towards the tree. No.
Running. I saw. Yeah. If I were to say I saw the cat running toward the tree, I subject, saw verb, the cat direct object. Running would be an adjective in Latin, but in English that's a progressive. And then up the tree would be a prepositional phrase in Latin. Yeah, it's a little like Latin. Honestly, Latin is a little bit simpler in terms of grammar than English is sometimes. Oh wait, sorry, Tim, and then Monty. Can they be both? In Latin, yes, they can. Yeah, exactly, depending on the situation. So if you see an accusative nearby, it's a transitive. What? You guys are... Verb that can be both. Not at the, well, in like different instances. Can I give an example? Mm, none come to mind, to be honest to you. None come to mind. Um, Let me see, because I had one somewhere. All right, Monty, while I'm looking, what is your question? Clause? Wait, what did I? Oh, oh, like main clause versus subordinate clause? Okay. Just very, very briefly. The main clause, let's do it in English so it kind of makes sense. To be honest with you, I don't remember because I just made two tests last night and I'm mixing them up a little bit. Um, I don't think so. I think so. Technically, I didn't teach you this, so I don't think it will be tested. But you should be able to translate it should you come across it. So let's try an example. Uh, okay, in this example, all right, we've got two types of clauses. We've got a main clause, which means it's a clause or an independent clause. It can stand on its own and make sense. And then we've got a dependent clause or a subordinate clause, meaning it hangs off of the main clause. All right, so what's my main clause here? Use the commas to help you. What's my main clause? Clinton.
Aurelia Cornelia Reader.
Good. Aurelia Cornelium Videt. Good. And what does that mean on its own?
That means that, like, if you got rid of the section in between the commas, it could, like, be a full sentence on its own.
Yep. So how would I translate my main clause, Jason?
Aurelia watches Cornelia.
Yeah. Aurelia watches Cornelia.
You could also say sees.
You could also say sees. Yeah. So Aurelia watches or sees Cornelia. Now, this chunk here, this is a subordinate clause. It's called a relative clause, in case you want to know. But that's not going to be on the test, right? But essentially, it would be translated as Aurelia. How am I going to do this? Yep, who is a mum, sees Cornelia. Okay, so you've got two types of clauses there, an independent and a dependent clause, or a main and a subordinate. Yeah. Okay, does that make sense, Monty? Cool. Okay, of course. All right, can I get rid of this, or should I leave it for a second? Okay, sure. All right, what were we talking about? Oh, transitive and intransitives that are both. Hmm. I can't think of one that could be both. I know it can happen, though. It can happen. Honestly, just be on the lookout for a direct object. Okay, if you see one, transitive. If you don't, intransitive. Right, so like if I were to say, Sextus falls out of the tree, transitive or intransitive? Intransitive, right? Because out of the tree would be a prepositional phrase. Yeah, there's no direct object there. Okay, how about this one? The voice scares Cornelia. Transitive or intransitive? Transitive, because it's got a direct object. Cornelia heard the fart. Transitive or intransitive? Transitive, right. Okay, yeah. Correct. I think they're kind of outside of that. Yep, transitive and intransitive only applies to action verbs. Okay. Mm-hmm.
For the test school, we have to know like the different kinds of conjunctions and like.
No. I mean, as long as you recognize a conjunction, I'm cool with that. Fine. Quickly. Good luck. Okay. Let's see. One other thing, or a couple other things. Subject-verb agreement. Okay. Basically put, what is subject-verb agreement? Who can put it into some nice, succinct English? What is subject-verb agreement? Zach.
So subject-verb agreement is why the subject and the verb and pretty much their ends have to agree. Well, not just their ends, but the number has to agree.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so subject-verb agreement, as Zach said, when the subject, let's put it this way, and verb agree in, or match in number, right? So if my subject is singular, will my verb also be singular? If my subject is plural, will my verb be plural? Yes. Does this have anything to do with gender, though? No. Right.
You should usually look at it more on like the verb side because say there's like a direct object,
Mm-hmm.
like it can distinguish because if you had a plural verb and a plural noun, and then there's a singular direct object, you have to match it with the other plural noun that would be in that sentence.
Yeah. So typically, and I always tell students, so thank you for bringing that up. Always look to the verb first. All right. Always find the verb. Okay, because that will tell you a lot of information. Okay. If my subject, I'm sorry, if my verb is singular, does my direct object also have to be singular? No, it's unrelated. Okay, the direct object could be whatever. Okay.
It's like cousins, goldfish, his parrot, friend, mother's cousin, friends.
Sure.
In relation.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Now what about noun adjective agreement? Do we remember what that is?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so essentially noun adjective agreement just states that the noun and the adjective must agree in, what are the three ways?
Gender, case, and number.
Yep. Yeah, so gender, our options are, it's either masculine, feminine, or eventually we'll get to neuter also, that could be a possibility. Number, it can only be singular or plural. And then for case, right now, we're really only working with nominatives or accusatives. Mm-hmm. Wait, say that one more time, please. You can figure it out most times if you don't know them, but the reason why I give you the genders is so that you do learn them, because that's going to save you time later. But you can figure it out. Usually you can figure it out. First and second declension are pretty easy, right? So let's talk about that real quick. Do y'all remember that chart? Okay, let me pull it up actually, so you can see it. This. Well, it's similar to this actually. Okay. What else did we have filled in? We had the genitives, right?
And then old way of masculine and feminine third declension, you have X, He asked me from IS,
East.
and then ES and ES, but they both have macrons.
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, so just case in point here, you do need to know this chart, right? But it's going to look like it normally does with the, not that one, speed test. That's upside down. Speed test. Okay, for speed check, right? This is what you will, when you first get the test, do this first, because this is going to be the key. It's going to help you throughout the whole test. Use the test to take the test, as the Yeoman says. Okay, Yeoman.
God bless Yeoman.
Yep. Okay, first declension. What gender is that typically? Yep. Second declension. What gender is that typically? Masculine, at least so far. Now, third declension, it could be both. It could be either. So you use the adjectives to figure out which one it is. Right? Like, remember that parsing quiz that I gave you guys? Right? Where you don't remember necessarily that urbs, urbis, or urbem is the word for city. It's feminine.
That's basically
Yep, but I gave you in the next sentence, I said magnam urbem. So magnam is feminine. How to what? Right, because right, so for example, urbem, right, it's third declension. You don't know if it's masculine or feminine, right? But if I say magnam, then you know it absolutely has to be feminine because occurs over here. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
like there's one word that's kind of like wonky, but like you can kind of figure it out. More.
That's third declension.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna get that, but I'm just saying that like it's one of those words where it's like if you, because then we say with US it can also be R.
Ooh.
Second
Yep, but I will. But the real identifier is the second word that's given. So if you looked at the dictionary, it would be clamor, clamoris, right? So even though clamor ends in an R and some second declension nouns end in R, it's not. It's actually third declension because the second word ends in IS.
No, yeah, I understand.
Oh, okay.
How about in terms of gender?
In terms of gender, because it's third declension, you wouldn't necessarily know unless you memorize the gender or there's an adjective nearby that's helping you out. Yeah. Clamor is masculine. So if I wanted to say the big shout, let's say shouts. So clamor ace. What's my ending on this word going to be? If it's masculine, and I'll tell you it's nominative. Sorry, plural. Magni. Yep. But what if it was accusative plural? Magnos. Okay, see how that works? All right. Could I do this though? No. Why? What did I just violate? They do not agree in gender. That is correct. Okay, so that's a All right, Jason, question.
On the test screen, we have like questions where you give us like one form of a word noun and then you ask us to determine like the nominative or like accusative form.
So that's a perfect segue into going over the answers to the questions in the study packet. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we went over all of these. Just one final note on nouns and adjectives. A noun has gender, correct? Does that gender ever change? No. Okay, but what about adjectives? Correct. Adjectives can be any gender, depending on whatever. Yes. I hope so. Huh? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay. So in this exercise, honestly, don't worry about complements. I'm totally not going to ask you about that. What I will ask you about are probably subjects, direct objects, transitive, intransitive, and linking and complementary. Okay. So if it's a linking verb, will it be transitive or intransitive? No. Okay, so it can only either be linking, intransitive, or transitive. That's the only options. I would tell you specifically, like I would have a section say, in these following sentences, identify if it's transitive or intransitive. I wouldn't just like give you a passage and be like, okay, mark it up. And then I wouldn't expect you to do that, right? Like that. Okay. So number 1, in Willa sedet vir Romanos. What do we got? What do we got? Talk me through it, Clinton. Yeah, essentially. So what's my subject?
Alright, so your subject here would be
Mm-hmm.
there's a prepositional phrase in will.
Yep, and I didn't ask you to mark that up, but that is good practice.
Said that it would be a intransitive verb.
Yep. So I'm just going to write IT, intransitive.
If you want to know, Romanus would be an adjective in that situation.
Yep. And what is it modifying?
It's modifying weird.
Good. Yep. Just like that. Okay. And they agree in gender and number and case. Yep, they got to do all those things. Okay. Man. Yeah, we're weary. And you can tell me, we're, right? It ends in an R. What declension is that? We. Yes. Second declension. Make it present though. The Roman man sits in the house. Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to make things present? Is there no past?
There is, but we haven't learned it yet. That's why. Yeah, so for now, just stick in the present tense. Yeah. Okay, number 2. Cornelius est senator Romanus. Markup. Who's got it? Zach.
Cornelius is your subject. Est is your main verb. And senator I put as your deal.
Ooh, careful. Because it's a linking verb, so can it have a direct object? No. So what is senator Romanus going with? Yep, so technically this would be the complement, but honestly, if you just told me that these things are all the same, like if you wrote it like that as a subject, that's totally fine too, because I just want to know that you know that those two things are the same. It's linking those two. Okay.
Yeah, because it's describing what he is and also like it's complementing or completing the sentence.
Yep, exactly.
An intransitive verb is when the verb is just doing that, it's not doing it to anything else. Okay.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Good. Okay. Number 3, markup. Number 3, talk me through it. Amy. Yeah, you. Okay. That is good. Nice. Yeah. Whether it's transitive or intransitive, don't really worry about that too much. As long as you recognize it as a verb, I'm cool with that. Okay.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
What would that translate to?
Number 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
And would it be he wishes to write many letters?
Yeah, right, because there's no nominative subject. There's no nominative
Also,
subject.
wouldn't Scooby Doo be a complimentary thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you would just mark it up as INF.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would technically be a complimentary. Correct. All right, number 4. Jason. That one.
Author is the author is subject.
Mm-hmm.
Occupantus will also be subject.
Yep.
S is the word.
Mm-hmm.
That everything before the comma technically is also like consonant. Like from S,
Technically, yeah.
so then Marcus, Sextus, and Philip, they're all subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Unitas is a phrase.
Yep.
And Paramount is a translator.
Good. Okay. Does anyone want that translated? Okay. While the father is busy, Marcus and Sextus and Cornelia wander in the fields.
Miss Lynn,
Yes, dear.
would occupatus be a compliment?
Technically, yes, but as I just want to know that you know that pater and occupatus are going together.
Yeah, and a follow-up question with that, labeling some of the things that either like complete the meaning or labeling them as subjects. Like I'm just a tad bit confused with the labeling of subjects. Like I understand with this sentence here,
Uh-huh.
I understand the thing with the independent clause at the end because that's basically its own thing. And father is in the subject of that since it has its own verb and own subject already there. But in the first part, I don't understand why you would make occupatus a subject as the complement.
Just because, so even though like Mrs. Brumler probably would have had you mark up subjects and complements, usually students coming to me don't know what either of those things are. So to kind of like make it simpler, I've always just asked for like as long as you can tell me that like pater and occupatus are both describing the same thing, that's what I'm concerned about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys have a leg up having come from Mrs. Brumler and having learned grammar already. Okay, so that's a good thing.
Trust me, I did terrible.
Terribly.
I was really bad. Yeah, exactly. That's how I know.
And poor, not bad.
Really poorly.
There you go. There you go. Number 5, markup. Tim. Uh-huh. Good. Okay. Yeah. So laborantes and actually multos, those are both modifying servos. So they're all going together. They're all our direct object unit. But yeah, so technically they would be complements, but correct. Yeah, they don't end in ARE, ERE, or IRE. Okay. Now, who is my subject of, oops, there's a typo. That's supposed to say spectant. It says spetant. Oops, right? Is that what it says?
The subject would be they.
Yeah, the subject would be they.
Because it's plural, there's no visible subject.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's pre-programmed.
I was a little confused about translation for this one too. Would the translation be they watch many slaves warfare?
You would say, there they watch.
There.
Yeah, Ibi means there. Yeah, so you could say there they watch the many slaves, comma, working, or you could even say there they watch the many working slaves. Either or is fine. All right, last one. What's my translation? Who's got it? Yep. How about Jonathan? He's been awfully quiet today. Nope, translate. Yes, please. Start with your subject. Uh-huh. What is she non-potest? She is not possum posse potui. Not able. Not able. To invenire. She is not able to come. Yep. Ad urbem. Where? To the that's Wilam. Urbem is city. Right. Okay. Flavia is not able to come to the city. All right. Okay, now nominatives and accusatives, there might be some section on the test like this, where I give you something singular and I ask you to make it, I'm sorry, where there's something nominative and I want it accusative or accusative versus nominative, okay? What's going to help you do this, though? The chart. So if you have the chart, will you be fine?
Use the text to take the test, as Mr.
Will
Dooley
you give us like a word that we haven't learned before and then give it like the nominative analysis of make it accusative?
If I did that, I would give you the dictionary form, so you know what declension it is.
Because if you had like, if you didn't know what, if you didn't know the dictionary form word, and then you were just given your own tool to make it nominative, you might write like mirrors instead of weird.
Possibly. Yeah. Right, so, Kibus, what declension is this? Yep, so it's second declension. What's the form? Kibun. Kelanam, what declension is that? All right, what's the new form? Lana, good. Fragorem, what declension is that? Careful. Okay. Yep. All right, what's the nominative form? Fragor, right? Okay, aquae, what declension is that? All right, and what's the accusative plural form? Good. Okay, lupus, what declension is that? All right, and how am I going to make that accusative? Okay, virum, what declension is that? How am I going to make that nominative singular? Good. Riwi, what declension is that? Yep. Okay, how am I going to make that accusative? Riwos. Good. Okay. I won't score the macron. No, I will not score the macron.
It's like I noticed that when you made Mana into Mana.
Yeah, I also noticed that. Would that have the macron?
Oh yeah, because I forgot. Sorry.
For
And Riwos should have it. Yeah, Riwi should have it too.
usually do they just carry over?
Yes, unless there's some accepting rule. Yeah, which is kind of a pain, but
I remember when you add
Because it's just weird.
okay. Think of the chart. Think of the chart. Weir is just the form. That's what it is. Yeah, so it wouldn't be weirus. It would just be weir. That's like what the word is. Yeah, but that word does also exist, right? So that's why, like, when you're reading, you sometimes have to use sense. Like, are we talking about a sickness here? Or are we talking about a man? It's probably a man. You don't see virus too often. Okay. All right. Yeah, what's up? That's about as big as I can go. Is that better? Okay. Walchem, declension. Good. How do I make that nominative? Ooh, I heard. It's just walks. It's just walks. Yeah, because that's just what the form is, right? Third declension, the nominative singular is going to be weird, but it is whatever the dictionary tells you it is. Okay. Number 9, pueros. What declension? Good. And how do I make that nominative? Good. Pueri. Number 10, patrem. What declension? How do I make that nominative singular? Pater. Good. Okay. Rami. What declension? And how do I make that accusative? Yep. Okay, and clamores. What declension? And how do I make that either way? It's the same. Yep. Yep. Either way. All right. Any questions on this exercise? No? Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, now for this exercise, you kind of had to use knowledge of what you knew about each person, thing, or whatever, right? Like it wasn't just like you couldn't just put any word there. And in addition to that, did you have to change the ending? Yep. Okay. Okay, so number 1, which word did we select? Which word did we select? Iratos. It made the most sense. Can I leave it just like iratos? Yes. Why? Why? It's agreeing with Dawus, and it's agreeing in what 3 ways? Yes, case, number, and gender. Number 2. Oh, sorry. Can someone translate that? Number 1. Monty. Yep. Dawus is irritated because the boys are shouting, or because the boys shout or scream. Fine.
You couldn't say the first one because there's no point. You can't say are shouting because there's no point. There's soon to something.
So you can, because in Latin you don't usually use a helping verb like that, like English does. So clamant, you could say they shout. You could say they are shouting. You could even say they do shout. Either of those are the same. Yes, of course. But in English that made sense. So I see why you said that. Smart. It's good. Okay, number 2. What word did we choose? Strenuus. Can I leave it like that?
Yes.
Yeah, why?
Because of the fact that the subject that it is agreeing with is masculine, it's singular, and they're in the same case.
Good. They're both. And what case would that be?
That'd be second.
That's declension. What case?
Sorry, my bad. Case, it would be.
It's either nominative or accusative. Good. Nominative. Good. Okay. Number 3. What did we choose?
Wait, did we translate them?
Oh, sorry, we didn't translate. What's the translation for that?
It's good practice. Can I do it?
Sure.
Sextus climbs the tree because he is active.
Yep.
Energetic.
Yep. Sextus climbs the tree because he is active or he is energetic. Yes.
Could you also write, I picked novels, same. So I suppose it was a wrong
Because he is cowardly. That's fine. That would be fine too. I would accept that.
But there's no context of it.
Yeah, but like the whole. You can technically put any like.
You could for that one.
would we get graded on like which one we choose? As
No.
long as we have the right ending.
As long as you had the right ending, I would be cool with it.
Yeah, because like number one, I put solicitous.
And it kind of makes sense. Like if I were to say, like Sextus climbs the tree because he is alone, that would be weird. Like that doesn't.
Well, it would be weird to say Sextus climbs the tree because he's angry.
But what if like a branch fell on his head and he was mad?
I don't know. Honestly, as long as it grammatically checks out, I'm all right with it. Right. Yeah, as long as the ending is right, that's what I care about.
For the first one, I put solicitous because like, can you make if a bunch of boys are shouting, how would you put it like it depends what kind of boy they're shouting. If they're shouting in a very annoying way, then I'll be angry. But if they're shouting shouting in a very high pitched, like screaming voice or something, then I would be pretty concerned.
Fair. That's fair. All right, number 3. Flavia in Willa blank habitat. All right, what are we modifying here? Careful. Willa, right? Because if word order doesn't always matter, but at this early stage, it kind of does. So we're looking for something to go with Willa. So what ending am I going to put on that word, everybody? Ah. So the answer technically was Wikina with a macron. Okay. If I wanted to say neighboring Flavia lives in a villa, how would that word change? Would it be Wikina still? It would, but what would be missing? The macron. Yep, no macron. Okay, no, you're fine. Okay, number 4. Marcus. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting. So Flavia, what? She lives in a neighboring house. Yep. Okay, no, it's fine. Number 4. You could do this 2 ways. You could if we were to modify Marcus, what's the ending that we're going to put on that? US. If it's modifying Ramum, what are we going to put on it? Okay, so let's say, what did you guys put? Yeah, okay. Marcus snatches a big branch and drives away the wolf.
Could you also say repels?
You could also say repels. Yep.
And also, in this context, Mario and Ramon and I would be the direct objects.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, they'd both be direct objects.
So technically, you've got 2 main clauses here, 2 independents. Yep, that conjunction is connecting those 2 independent clauses. So you could have that.
So there could be 2 direct objects?
Yep. Yep. Okay, number 5. Sextus what? He ascended what kind of tree? Ooh, good. Magnum. Right? AM. Right? Why did I write AM? What gender is arborem? It's feminine. Good. Okay, Sextus climbs the big tree. Number 6. Davus blancus quod sextus in horto ambulat. All right, what did we put for this one? What ending are we going to put on it if it's modifying Davus? US. Yep, so solicitus.
To be honest, I actually switched from this one and 6 one.
I said so.
Yeah,
I said Davos.
that's fair.
Davos
Is
is alone because Sextus walks
but if you said alone, yes, but would that make sense though? No. Right. But if you got the ending right, that's fine. Yes. Sorry. Huh? Yeah, good luck. Okay, number 7. Flavia et Cornelia puellae blank. All right. This is a little tricky. Okay. Am I going to put strenu a or strenu I? I. Why?
Because it's
Because it's plural, right? Right, so even though Flavia and Cornelia are singular on their own, there's two of them. Okay, that's why puellae has to be plural. Okay. Flavia and Cornelia are energetic girls and often run in the fields. Often they run in the fields. Okay. Number 8. Sextus est puer, of course we know this one. Molest us. Okay, he is annoying. He's an annoying boy, and he terrifies the girls. Okay. What if I were to say timet the puellas? How would that change? He fears the girls, right? Okay, number 9. Huh? Yeah, it could work both ways. Number 9. Okay, it's modifying puer, so it's going to be ignau us. Ooh, temerarios, that could be fine too. Huh? We didn't translate? The previous one? No, I've translated them. No, but yes. Flavia and Cornelia are energetic girls, and often they run in the fields. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could say that, as long as the ending is right. Okay, when the wolf arrives, Sextus sits in the tree because he is a cowardly boy. That makes sense, though, right? He's cowardly, right? It wouldn't make sense if he's annoying, but I would accept it if the ending is right. Yep, that's fine. Number 10. Okay, it's modifying Cornelius, so it's going to be sol us. All right, Cornelius sits alone because he wants to write letters. All right, any questions on this? Okay, use the chart for this too. Okay, that's going to help you out. Okay. This was good practice. How did you guys find this story? The reading, yeah, reading the Latin. Oh, the gloss vocab down here? Might be. It might be. But words that you don't know will certainly be glossed for you. Okay? But the words that you've seen before, i.e. the words on chapters 1 through 7, vocab, those are fair game. Right? So I didn't expect that you would know, like, that Aeneas is Aeneas.
Yeah, but we technically didn't learn defenders, did we?
You could figure that out.
Yeah, and I know it means to defend, but or to like hold off or something like that. But also oh yeah, so I have a question about remember how you said you're gonna make a 1 through 7 quiz?
Yeah, I was in the middle of that, and then people came for office hours.
Today?
Yep, so I didn't do it. Yep, but I'll do it by tonight. And I'll post the link on the daily schedule. And actually, if you guys want to, I can make a booklet for it. Do you guys remember booklet? Okay, I'll make you a chapters 1 through 7 booklet so you can play your little cafe game. Yes.
Is this the exact story that's going to be in number 2?
No.
What is it?
I have no idea. I forgot.
I don't know, maybe like these questions almost study guys like that.
I don't remember. No, because I told you I made 2 tests last night and I'm forgetting what's on either one, to be honest with you. It's a lot of information to carry. Okay. Do you guys want me to go through the translation, or does that not matter? Not really? Okay. How do you guys feel about the test?
I feel good. I just need to do. I think I need to study a little more. And I just need a little bit of vocab, a little bit more.
Yeah, same. I feel I'm barely tired.
Okay. I think,
That's good, Tim.
honestly, focusing on vocab is going to save you a lot of trouble. So if I were to tell you to look at one thing and one thing only, it would be vocabulary. But what would also be helpful would be that chart. Memorize that. Have that in your brain.
Oh, we also supposed to know culture. I remember on Monday we talked about
Don't emphasize that too much.
too
I mean,
much.
I learned all of
And
the
you still
this like this like
I could ask about it, but probably won't.
So like, so we might have to know terms like
Maybe, but probably not.
So just like go over it just to be safe.
I would just look it over just to be safe.
guys, that's a yes. I know it's slates being that's a yes.
Because so far she said don't worry about it.
It's a yes. I know
Things that are no. So now she says it's not. That usually means no. So that means yes.
nothing means no in this slates class. Like,
Nothing is a for sure no.
like
Yeah.
if Miss Slate says probably not, it means yes. If Miss Slate says probably yes, it's a yes. If Miss Slate says maybe, it's a yes.
If she says
no. It's a yes.
Have I ever said no?
There's never 100% no.
I've never given 100% no.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you've never given like
You asked me about relative clauses, and I said that wouldn't be on there.
oh that's fair actually. No,
I did say no.
But you still said no though.
I said it might be helpful to translate them, but I'm not going to ask you a grammar question on that. Okay. You know, let's do something interesting. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to read you guys the translation for this story. See if you can follow along in the Latin. All right? Yeah, this is not negotiable. That's right. Okay. You guys ready? Are you looking at the Latin? Okay. I know. Aeneas is a Trojan man who defends the city Troy against the Greeks. For 10 years, the Greeks besieged the city. How do you word that? Thank you. Attack. Huh?
Pretty much just stop the flow of the Yeah, like surround the whole thing.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, so it's some type of conquest.
Is that obsidian?
Yep, that's obsident. Okay. For 10 years, decem annos, the Trojans repel or drive off the Greeks. Tandem. Finally, through a trick of the Greeks, finally through a trick, the Greeks enter the city at night. They capture many Trojans. They kill many. Aeneas is no longer able to defend the city. Therefore, it is necessary to flee out of the city and to seek a new city. Many friends also flee from the city Troy. All prepare to sail to Italy. Okay, now we're on the next paragraph. Aeneas, while he flees out of the city, carries an old man. The old man is Anchises, the father of Aeneas. It is necessary to carry Anchises because the old man is not able to walk. Aeneas carries Anchises. Anchises carries the Penates, the household gods. The gods save Aeneas and Anchises and all friends. Next paragraph. Aeneas also leads a small boy. The boy is Ascanius, the son of Aeneas. While they walk out of the city, Ascanius looks at his father and holds his hand. Ascanius is frightened because he hears loud shouts, great crashes. He fears the Greeks very much. Next paragraph, ubi. When Aeneas and Anchises and Ascanius flee out of the city, Ascanius suddenly shouts, "Where is mother?" Many friends arrive, but Creusa, the mother of Ascanius, does not arrive. Aeneas, worried, leaves his father and son and the Penates and returns into the city. The Greeks are everywhere. He seeks Creusa in vain. "Alas," he says, "the Greeks have Troy. Perhaps they have you too, Creusa. I love Creusa very much. Very much I love Troy. But I am no longer able to save either the city or Creusa. It is therefore necessary to return to my friends." Then he returns to his friends. Soon Aeneas and his friends prepare to sail to Italy. Okay. How was that following along? Were you able to kind of track the Latin? What?
Words that are,
That's okay. And honestly, a couple words, that's not bad. You say bye? Huh? What word are you looking? Senex means old man. Yeah, and that's where we get the word for Senate too, because the Senate is like consisting of old men. Yeah. All right. Email me if you have any questions, but study your vocab, study the chart. Okay. Go over the study guide. Go through your notes. All right. This lecture will be posted on the portal in the daily schedule. Okay. Buona fortuna.